Okay, in this video we will continue on this series with Beginner's Guide to SDL2 and CPP2. We have already set up, well, let's start with, if you're just joining us, and this is the first one you are doing with us, you're going to need to go to GitHub, Programming Rainbow, and you're going to need to clone the Beginner's Guide to SDL2 and C++. Inside of that, you can change directories inside of that folder, and you will need to grab Herb Sutter's CppFront, and that's also on GitHub. It's GitHub h/sutter/CppFront. So if you after you clone my repository, you're going to cd inside of it, and then you're going to clone CppFront inside of that, and you need to compile that. And that needs to be done with C++, the standard C++ 23 standard for your compiler switch. So you'll already need that set up. This is video 3, so you can just grab the code from video 2 and copy it into the source folder. You can just delete whatever's in there and copy if you're just starting here, and that will get you up to speed with what we are working on today. So we have already set up a CppFront in our project. So, and we've already created the window. Let's just show it running real quick. Oh, we simulated an error in the last video. Let's recompile it. You don't need to use these complicated compile. It's not necessary for this project. So the window opens. It stays open for 5 seconds and it closes. You cannot close it on your own if you want to. In this video, we will be making it where you can close it on your own. So we need to get the events that are happening. So in SDL2, we have events, and we have something called SDL pull event. So basically, you imagine each time your game starts running the code from top to bottom. Where's our game loop here? So right now, this would be where our game loop is. So imagine this loop is looping over and over again, 60 times a second. And what's happening is it's going to do all the code all the way down. When it gets to the bottom, it goes up to the top and starts doing it again. Well, there could be events that happen since your code since it last time it checked the event queue. So what we want to happen is we want to check all the events and then go through and run the code. And then come back up and check all the events that happened since the last time we checked those events. And the events that we want to check is whether the window has been asked to close or whether we press the escape key. So the event is in SDL2 is a union, and inside of the union, firstly it has a type, and then it has different structs that could be, the union could be filled up of all manner of different structs. So the first thing that we're going to be very interested in is the type of the event. So if we have an event, the very first thing here is type. That type could be, here's pull event. I want to see the actual event types. The event types. Oh, down here. Okay. So we have the first member of this union is type, right? So if we go down here, we can see what the different types can be. And we are looking for the quit type. It's right here. And the way that this is what's going to be held in that actual type variable will be this enum, this, what is it, a uint32. This uint32 right here on type is actually holding on to what type this union is. And we are interested in, is it a quit type? That means if you have asked to close the screen, the game will receive a quit event, and that will be this event. We're going to be checking for this, but we also want to check for something else. So you can have another type of event, which is a key being pressed, a key down event, which is right here. It's a key down event, and it's of type key. So this is the type of the event, but now it's going to have a struct involved with it and everything else. And it's got a bunch of information inside of this. It's going to be an SDL keyboard event. inside of this SDL keyboard event, we have represents the key that was pressed. So we have another thing here called key sim. So we're going to have our event dot type, or it's going to be of type key. So it's going to be event dot key and then dot key sim, and then we can check. It's going to be a scan code, and we can check what actual key has been pressed. And these are different scan codes that we can check for. So we're going to see this built up. It'll make more sense, but I'm just kind of explaining it a little bit. But what's going to happen is like I said, as the game loops, there could be like 20 events that happen, but we only care about the quit event and if the escape event happened. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through all the events. There's going to be a queue of events. We're going to keep populating our event with one of those events from the queue until it's run out. We're going to check all of them, and then when it's run out, we're going to run the rest of our code, and then when it gets to the top of the game loop again, we're going to check what events have happened since the last time we've checked. So we need this pull event, SDL pull event. This is basically going through the queue of events and populating our event. So we're going to hold on to one event at a time, and we're going to check it in a loop, and each time it's going to populate until the events run out. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is we could do this a couple ways. We could keep making an event happen inside of our loop. We could keep creating a local variable, but I'm just going to make it in our class. Since we already have a class here, I'm just going to take advantage of that and put the event variable in the class. This is just the single variable that holds on to one event at a time when we go through the loop. So I'll call it event. And this is C++ syntax 2. It's SDL event. And that is the type. And we're going to set it because I want to initialize everything here so I don't need to deal with the constructor. And so I'm going to set it to 0. Okay? That's just going to be an initial. It's just what I'm initializing it to. So now we have in our event, we need to run this. So the way the code is currently set up is it simply clears the render, presents a render, and then waits 5 seconds, and then the program shuts down. Well, now we want a loop to happen. So for a loop, I'm just going to say while true, and then run a code block while true. So that is the Cpp2 syntax. There's no parentheses here, but it's pretty much like C++. Okay? So this is while true, and true is always true, so this loop is just going to run infinitely. I'm not even going to put a sentinel value here that we're going to change because that's never going to happen. I'm going to run this forever, and then I'm going to break out of the loop. So I'm going to break out whenever it needs to be broken out of. I'm not setting a value and then it breaks out at the top. I don't even need that. I just need an infinite loop. So this loop runs forever. It never ends. Okay? So we need to start checking events. So I'm going to use another while loop for this event. So, and this is going to go through, this is while the event queue is still populated. Each time it's going to pop an event off and fill up my event variable from the queue until it's run out. So that's what this while loop is doing. And that's that SDL pull event. Now this pull event actually needs to populate our event, and our event is just a union. It's just a holder for a union. So we need the address of that because it's not a pointer. So we're going to get the address of it so this function can change that actual union and populate it with whatever the event is. So it's going to be event, and then it's going to have an ampersand on the back end. That's going to give us our address of that. Okay, it's just different. Instead of the front end, it's the back end this time. Okay, so that is going to be what it looks like. Now, I normally use a switch statement with cases, whatever, but I don't think that's implemented in C++2. So instead, we're just going to use an if statement. So again, the type I'm looking for when we're looking at events, this guy right here can be any one of these things down here. It can be any one of these. And so I'm just seeing, hey, has quit been asked? Has something asked me to quit? So if you close a window in Windows or OS X or Linux and you press the little cross or the dot or whatever it is to close a window, that is sending an event quit. That is sending this quit into it. Or if you press like Control Alt F4, I think in Windows, or for me it's a different key combination, same thing. It's asking the program nicely to quit itself. And that's what we're going to be looking for here. So we're going to say if, and we got the event, but we're looking at the event type. So we're saying if event dot type equals SDL, and this is all capital, just like it was down there. All these enums that we saw here, down at the bottom, these over here on this side are all the different types that could be, which I believe is an enum, is SDL quit. This is all capital. All of these are all capitalized. So that is SDL quit. And if that is what the event did happen, I'm just going to return. And that just breaks out of this run function. It just returns from this run function. So I don't need to worry about this while loop at all. It just returns from this whole function. Okay? But I want to be, well, let's just check that real quick. Let's see if this works. One thing, I do want to not make this 5 seconds. That means our loop is going to take 5 seconds each time to go through the loop. I want to be more like 60 times a second. So if you take 60 and you divide it by 1,000, or sorry, you take 1,000 and you divide it by 60 for milliseconds, you get 16.666 on forever, 16 2/3, which is roughly 16. So we're just going to put 16 there. And that'll make this loop roughly run 60 times a second. So every time this loop gets done and it comes up here, it's going to start checking events. And then when that queue is ended, it's going to run through here. And now if a key was pressed while it's in here somewhere, when it comes back up here, it's going to be checking events and it's going to get that. But it's only looking for one event right now. It's looking for a quit event. So that should be all we need. Let's try that out. I'm just going to run that, and I'm going to run the simple one so you're not looking at the complicated code here. Should be this one, but we need this, yeah. So it's going to be G++ minus capital I CppFront / include. That's to get access to that header file that we need. It's going to be minus std equals C++23, and we are using the source code from the source directory. So it's src/star.cpp. That means anything that is a CPP file in that folder, which there's only one thing in there that is. Our output is demo, and we do need the FMT library and the SDL2 library. Okay. Okay, so I've made a mistake here. Oh, I know what I've done. Okay. So what I have done here, and this is going to get into something I mentioned in the first video, is that I'm actually modifying, I'm mutating the class in run. Now in CPP Syntax 2, this is implicitly in this, which is a const reference to this. It's not mutable. So what we need is an in-out this. This means we can mutate it. This is not const. So in this one, we can mutate it, but now we run into another problem. Is, as I mentioned in the very first video, is the last function call for a class instance is, I think it's like internally or implicitly a move function. And a move function is actually a destructor. So it clashes with this in-out, or I think it's a bug. So what's going to happen here is this is not going to work, and I'm going to show it to you, and then we're going to fix it. So when I try to compile, it's just going to all fall apart. Watch this. There it goes. and I know exactly what this is. So it just can't handle it. I believe it's a bug, or I'm confused about what's happening here, but I believe it's the move. It's the last is a move, and since we're doing in out, not a move, but down here, when it's getting called, since this is the last time this function is being used, this is the last member being called, this is a move. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make another member function so that we can call it afterwards. Like, let's see. What did I put it before? Yeah, they could just buy. Yeah. So we can just make a function called buy. And this will be, we'll just say this. It doesn't matter. And I'm just going to std see out. This is just to say bye. So goodbye from game. And we'll go std and line on that. Hopefully I've got all that correct. Now, this will still fail. If I compile this again, it'll still fail. Yep, okay. But if we call it right here, so now run is not the last member function being called. Now it'll allow this run to be an in out, and buy can just be a move. It's fine because this is a non-const anyway. So, or it's a const reference or whatever. Whereas this now can mutate. I think that's what's happening at least. I don't know. So this should compile this time. And it did compile. So now if I run it, I'm going to try pressing, I'm going to try using my close command that I use because I'm in a floating window, or I'm in a tiling window manager, so I use a key combination to close things. So I'm going to try that, and it closed. Perfect. And it says goodbye from game. So that's nice, but I would like to be able to press escape and have it close too. So we can now set up a key event. So here we were just checking the very top thing as the type, is it a quit type? Okay, but there's other types that can it be. Theirs is the quit type, that, and that's the enum for it. But we could check if it's a key down. Where's that at? Key. I think it's just key right here. Key down. So it could be a key down or key up event, and it's going to be SDL keyboard events, which is right here. Okay. So so we're going to check event.key, and then we're going to check key sim. Okay. Key sim gets our specific key, represents a key that was pressed or released. And then inside a key sim, we're going to be looking at scancode.scancode, and that's going to be these scan codes, which is going to be all of this. And we're going to look for something like SDL scancode escape is what we're going to be looking for. So I'm going to write this out, but I'm just kind of showing you the logic of how it goes down here. So since we're using an if statement, I'm going to make just another if statement. Well, I'm going to nest an if statement because I might be checking multiple different keys, so I might as well get down inside of a key event, key down event. So we're going to check the event again and just see if it's of type key down. I'm still checking the event.type. And I'm going to say SDL key down. Now that was right under the types, the enums of the types. This was one of them, key down. So now if we know it's a key down, we need to check exactly which key. We can't check before which key it is if we don't even know if it's a key down, because it's a union, and unions can be all manner of things. It can be whatever has been defined that a union can hold. So now we know that the union we're looking at is a struct with information about it, about a key press. So I want to see what key was actually being pressed. So now that we know we have a keyboard type event that happened, we need to drill down to the actual key that was pressed. Okay, so this is going to be event. No, like I said, normally I'd use a switch statement for this. It would make it a little nicer, but I don't think there's switch statements implemented in CPP2. So this is the type of this is going to be key, and then key sim. Yeah, that is key sim. Yeah. And then scan code. And then that is going to equal the actual key that we're looking for, which is going to be SDL scan code and then escape. Because I want it to close when I press the escape key. So our event, it's going to be event key sim scan code SDL scan code escape. And if that's pressed, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to return. That just returns straight from the function. And this is still the same. Everything else is still the same. Yep. I think I just saved. My key shortcuts are a little bit different. So every time you change anything, you need to save it. You need to run it through the CppFront, and then compile it again, and then you can run it. And I'm going to press escape key, and that closed with escape key. I'm just going to end this video here. I'm just going to real quick. We just went through the events basically, make an event loop, and queuing through all the different events. Going through all of them and checking the type, or checking if it's a key down and if it was the escape key. And either way, we're returning from the run function here. And we did need to build that that little by function just so the last function that we were running wasn't the run function or member function. So that's going to be it for this one. So thanks for watching. Bye.